All right, let's jump into it. Where we at? 9 past 11. Yeah, where we all? 16th of January. So that's what the Thursday. You can tell I'm a little bit sort of shoddy from this one. Up late last night, obviously we had CPI. So good place to sort of start with it with DXY because it did get in the initial sort of hit. Obviously, as you can see here, got kind of crunched. So yesterday, basically, what we were looking at, sort of prior to it all, so this big candle coming down here, that was when CPI dropped in that. And this is what I was saying, sort of throughout the day, this was an area, it almost sort of perfectly came into where we put that arrow as to sort of where it would test, and we would see a little bit of a reaction sort of prior to the data. And obviously, boom, it played out perfectly with that. And with that, we got a little bit of a pump up of Aussie prior. Um, excuse me, gold was sort of like. Gold and silver was sort of like grinding a little bit higher throughout the session as well, and then everything sort of just popped off a little bit more when that data sort of came out. So have a quick look at the data because it mainly came in a little bit, pretty much in line, and also a little bit cooler on some of them. So where are we here? Early hours of the morning. So yeah, year on year. So did actually tick up, but as expected, month on month ticked up as expected, and then the core, which of course sort of strips out a couple of the more volatile bits and pieces, sort of came in a little bit lower. So a little bit of a mixed bag here. One that I did overlook at the time, but I saw, after sort of you see that initial pop reaction and do your bits with the positions, was this Empire State Manufacturing, and this again continues to be very weak. Like they not only again, these are the big ones when they expect it to be moving in one direction, not only does it go in the other direction, but absolutely gets crushed. That's probably also partly why we saw a little bit of a hammer of it. But all in all, it did tick up sort of through these two parts, even if it was expected and in line with what they were thinking, bit of a mixed bag. I mean, we've got dollar negative, technically dollar bullish, bullish, but as expected, so that kind of mutes that response. Whereas if we look at the actual chart, you can see this reaction afterwards. This is probably more coming from like the Fed speakers, but it does give reason to why it didn't just continue all the way down. So let's have a look on lower time frame. You can see the initial pop here. It did stuff around a little bit here, but then obviously bang, 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 undid that whole move and then just sort of petered out into the sort of close of the session. So yeah, look, interesting sort of move with it all. If we get out onto daily, it is kind of, I mean, depending where you want to cut this channel, it's a bit of a sort of tough one to really cut because there's no clear defined one line. I mean, if you went from the very lows, it puts you out here, but then you didn't get touched over here with that sort of retest earlier. I probably wouldn't put it much tighter in, but I guess you could say it was this one here and did sort of clip the bottom side here. However, look, a couple of points here and there doesn't really sort of matter so much. We are sort of seeing, a reason why from a technical standpoint, and as I just covered a little bit of a fundamental standpoint as to why this sort of bounced up from that point over there. So no real shocker that we did get a bit of a bounce back up. I mean, that was expected, but it gives us levels we can work off because if we take out that wick low, um, that's when we're going to see it move back down. I mean, it's not moving far. It's going to come back in, and you're going to see as I've got this little path mapped out here, they're going to see a little bit of a reaction from that move there as well. We've got inaugurations with Trump coming in next week. So that's going to also play a factor a little bit with sort of market movements. I think sort of people have sort of been shoring up the dollar positions a little bit, and that's probably why you've been seeing a little bit of a bounce in, say, the Aussie and yeah, I don't trade, but like, with the euro and the pound and yen, these kind of things. Yen's a little bit different because they got BOJ coming. But we are seeing, let's just stick with DXY here. We've got still this wedge playing out. Obviously, support played its part here, close enough. A couple of points either side of it all. There's also its tiny little horizontal there. But this negative divergence is rolling over, and this is what I was saying. When was it? I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, maybe the weekend. I don't know. Somewhere through here, and I said, look, this is the same point that we had up over here. Crossed over for a second and rolled down. And I said, look, if we get another negative day, that's going to give us another cross and roll down over here. So as you can see, it just firms up this negative divergence here because when these things cross like this, could just be a pullback, to then rip back up here and then sort of punch in a new high. I don't think that's about to come at the moment, but as I said, next week's a bit of a mixed bag as to what we're going to see with inauguration, with Trump sort of coming in, what he does with tariffs, how hard he goes. These are the kind of things that I'm sort of going to be sort of looking at with it all. So look, that's an overview of what we have with CPI. In terms of what we can maybe look for here, it is looking pretty sort of oversold and ticking back up with that little bounce up over there. So again, I think this is the area where we want to see a close underneath if we're going to see the sellers sort of really take control of this. Likewise, we can see that this move back up here, we knew where the sellers were going to be on this top side here. And it came right up here, like I mean, that is, you can't get much more than that. That's to the point. And then bang, they stepped straight back in again. So, yeah, it is certainly a little bit of a tussle. I mean, overall, still very, very bullish in this sort of hanging around the top end here. But these things do have to break eventually. And what we're sort of seeing is if, you know, CPI ticked up. It was expected. It wasn't any sort of shocker. The manufacturing was a shocking number. You did see the core actually tip down a little bit. So the two-pronged thing that we're looking for with DXY to sort of start to actually continue and hold a little bit more of a sell-off is weak economic data, that's the manufacturing in this case, and then the CPI, the inflation, not prove to be such an issue. If we see CPI ticking up, well then, the story goes, well, maybe we need to hold rates for longer. If you see the CPI or the inflation not be so much of an issue, and you see the economy starting to, like through the data, start to weaken a little bit, get a couple of these sort of like poorer numbers, that's when you're going to start to see people talk about recession again. And, once they're talking about recession, well, how do we combat recession? Oh, okay, got to cut rates. Oh, we've been pricing for 2, maybe now we need to price for 3, yada, yada. I mean, it's all sort of like, hey, we're pricing for this, we're fully priced in for that, yeah. Like, you know what? Take a bit of data by bit of data, like because the things can change so quickly. And anybody that's sort of saying that, yeah, this is what's happening through 25 and second cut in December, it's like yeah, whatever, take it with a grain of salt. So in the short term, a move underneath this zone, preferably a close under 108, 108.90. I'm looking for a move down here. If we break this sort of rising channel, I reckon this is going to be the move that gives us that little push to the downside there. And this is where I'll be targeting this area over here. Of course, remember these are price levels, not necessarily sort of time sort of things. It could go woo straight down here. It could just dribble all the way down over here. Each of those things also do mean a certain different thing as well, keep in mind, because if it comes down very quick, that's generally stops and everything being hidden. If it's a nice little sort of grind, that's the market chopping and changing a bit, coming down into it. So they do mean different things, how fast they get to a certain location. Location being price level, of course. But yeah, look, that's what I'm looking for there. The fact that the RSI is a little bit sort of oversold and rolling up does give me pause to sort of think it could have a little bit more of a ranging through here. But again, if we come back up, that's where I'll be looking for. Anything above this, I think, okay, well, you got to really sort of consider what's going on here. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think, again, if it does come up here, it's only going to be a little bit of a move. This to this. If we get above this little zone here. So we'll see how we go. One point to note as well, we had, there was there was ceasefires supposedly reached coming into overnight and that. So coming into Trump's sort of takeover of the office. So that's another thing that could weigh on stuff. Doesn't seem to be affecting gold so much. I think gold's on a rip, which is a good sort of segue to get through to that. Gold broke out, tried to reject it back down in, broke out again, retested again, broke out, and okay, and it's on its way. And this is the level that I was saying, 2,700. Yesterday we were down here. I was like, look, we've got the double bottom effectively through here. breakout. This is where we were. I was like, look, we're at breakout, retest, bang, and on its way it went. So look, it's looking pretty good. I'd say gold at the moment. I would say up above here, we're probably looking 27.14 to 27.20 are the two levels that I'm looking at here. 27.14 only just because these big move downs like this, they like to fill the bodies. And once you see the fill the body, you generally tend to see it go whoop and then sort of sell back from there. But of course, if it does decide to go up a little bit higher, these are really the sell zones. And as we say, body, oh, not a body fill, but there is a body place on this at 27.15 as well. So 27.15 to 27.20, I think, is the next logical level. Should we get a little bit of a push through here? Hey, look, it's a little bit overbought on the 4 hour, but I don't think that's really going to affect it so much. Daily looks like it wants to just push up here. And as you can see, it's a pretty clear-cut move through these ones here. So I think we could be seeing this a little bit of a push higher. And this is what I've been saying with potential US dollar sort of selling down, those flows are going to be coming into the metals. And obviously we can see that this is very much moving to the top side here. It's really just this big triangle. This is the breakout point that we called, and kind of measured move technical sort of thing from this does take you up into the 2900s. So very much sort of in belief that it's sort of like, first things first, get to this 2720. Above that, we're really moving up to 2750s, 2789s. They're the sort of like next big ones there, obviously that being the all-time high. But then once you got that, you've got this triangle break. And whether you want to say, okay, look, it's this triangle through here, or whether it's going to be sort of like, this larger move back through here, which I don't really think so much of that with the triangle. It does give you a bit of a fairly chunky target up towards sort of that 3000. So it's been a bit of a stuff round. I got absolutely ripped apart in these sort of things. They're very poorly managed through this pullback here. Did well here, did bad here. Oy, oy, oy. So yeah, I think these sort of areas, like I've sort of said a couple of times, like these periods here, they're by design to whip people out, to just absolutely clear the book, and then sort of, look for that next leg. Eventually things are going to roll over. Like it can't go up forever, of course. But, is it at the top right now? I don't know. I don't think so. So, yeah, we'll see how this one plays out. But that's a bigger picture. At the moment, I think if we can get a big, decent push, we spiked on open. It's funny, I have different, not really funny, but I have different levels and then on the IG and then on this slide here. So look, in either event, if it just pushes up here, I could see another solid day back up to 27.20 here. I think that's a fairly decent little target to move towards. Silver also pumping back in, and I think we may have hit that price target. No, we have not. Jeez, look at this. So we had two price targets. Yesterday I was saying that, maybe put on the lower time frames. Yeah, this is the move here that we were calling yesterday, saying that, look, if we break this little zone here, then you've got a good little 1% move up here. And obviously it did this, sold down a little bit, and then just charged through again. So look, it's moved quite well. See how things move again. You want to sort of see what's going to be happening next week with these tariffs and everything. Lower tariffs, I think, are going to be better for silver. Not so much of a sort of like restriction on sort of, just general trade and productivity across the board. I think that's going to be a little bit more favorable for silver. But yeah, we've got to see how that all sort of plays out. But short term, we could probably put a little bit of a zone in here, because this is where we've seen the sells and the sells. So look, it's testing above this little zone here. So I think, look, if it can consolidate and hold this area above here, I mean, it's looking a little bit wicky. It's a funny time of the day, but it's looking a little bit wicky here. But, the fact that it got up above here and it's holding, I think is good. I think it needs to consolidate this period, show that the people aren't just going to go, okay, yeah, it's an offer, some bang, push back down towards 30. If it can hold this period, then 31.20 is the next sort of level that I'm sort of looking for. But as I said, I think sort of like with gold pushing, US dollar selling off, I think that'll drag silver as well. So I think, look, above 30.80 here, that'll be the confirmation to sort of move back up to price target. well, next price target, I should say. And Aussie, I've got to be quick on this one. We've got 6 minutes going till we have the um, employment data out. So just have a quick look at that and what we're expecting for employment data. As you can see, 5 minutes, slight tick up and employment down. This is the expectations. So this, if this comes in this direction, as to whether this is, can't see me doing the fingers, but priced in or not, that's dollar weakness. So, one the things that they're looking for are, higher unemployment, lower jobs. Okay, the economy's in trouble. We need to help it along. What do we do? Okay, we give it a helping hand with lower rates. That's the theory. Should these numbers shock again, which they tend to, I mean, if you can see, spamming 20 is their go-to, and then as you can see, most of the time they're wrong. When they're right, they overshoot and they're wrong. But spam it at 25, you know, cut it in the middle. They've got no idea basically. That's what that means. Employment, unemployment. So 39, 3.9 ticking up to 4. Again, look, 4's not a big shocker. It's still quite a low number. The higher for this one will sort of affect things a bit more. So I'm just having a look. Metals just got crunched a bit there. Um, Anyway, yeah, so I think sort of like this will be interesting to see what happens with Aussie. Look, Aussie is always at the tail that's being wagged by the US dollar. So if we see that sell down US dollar, even with slightly bad, unless it's like shocking numbers, Aussie will continue. But Aussie's at a very critical point, as you can see here. This is a channel. It's been sort of shoring up since the top. So over here. Okay, of course. Boom. Already got it marked up here. As you can see, it's hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it. This was the price target yesterday, 62.30, which obviously we took out and then superseded a little bit, pulled back, and it's having a second attempt now. This is your breakout level now, above yesterday's breakout level, above yesterday's high, so 62.47. Above here means you're out of the channel, and in the more short term, you're putting in a new higher high. Bang, we push up. Next target, 62.80. I think that's a fair area that we could expect to see again a little bit of selling, because we know that this has been strong previous supports from, historically, sort of going back a couple of months or whatever. But it gives us a logical area where we sort of probably going to then maybe undo this big V-shaped move and then sort of assess what happens from there. Should it fail from this area here, well, then you're in danger of really, or potentially sort of coming all the way back down over here. A couple of levels of interest over here will be 62 is a round number, 61.70, break 61.70, and you go back down to the lows. So it really depends what happens with US dollar here, but I think it's a bit too much uncertainty for next week. So the positions I'm going to be taking aren't going to be sort of super heavy, regardless of what we do. But really, at a critical point here, because we've seen it butt heads with this line a number of times, and it's been crunched a number of times as well. So let's just sort of see how that plays out. So we've got 3 minutes till that data comes. Where are we at here? So, yeah, as you can see, coming into this is a horizontal we had marked out. Buyers, sellers, obviously punched through, tested through yesterday. The fact that it's come back down like this, not the end of the world, because remember, this is very reminiscent of what we saw with gold with its triangle breakout. Got smacked back down, came back for the second time, and hit over here. The expectation being Aussie dollar weak with this data is partially why you're seeing this sell-off moving into it now. So we'll see how this goes, and I will actually pop back in just a few minutes. All right, I'm back again. Yeah, you can see the reaction Aussie here, completely undid that little sell down move through that. DXY's coming online in a few minutes, so we'll see how this one sort of plays up. 2 seconds. All right, and yeah, back there. But yeah, look, let's have a look at this stuff. Uh, those guys are absolute. Has an update on this one here, but yeah, 56K unemployment. Look up, but as you can see, expected. Um, but have a look at this sort of track history here: 20, 26, 25, 25. Like it's just like they just spam this. I write this every month because I think it's almost comical. Um, But they just sort of spam it every month. I don't know why they think that this is such a solid, easy, safe bet number because they're just so drastically wrong every single time. And then this time, 14.5, this is the lowest they've predicted in at least the last 6 months here, probably in quite a while. Back till April last year, they thought we were going to get 7.2. Obviously, that was a pretty shocking number there, but you know what I mean? Like, 14.5 when it comes to 56 and stuff. Like, I don't know, like employment sort of change with this kind of thing. Is this possibly also accounting for like sort of Christmas period and all that kind of stuff where you're obviously taking on more staff? To me, that seems logical. Maybe I've got that incorrect, but any event, there was a high lot of employment, a lot of jobs created through that period. Unemployment still low at 4%. They want to see this like yeah, I think there is a little bit of work that needs to be done there if they're going to sort of use that as a sort of argument, sort of raising rates. Uh, sorry, cutting rates. Sorry, I got distracted there for 2 seconds. All right, let's keep on ticking on. So, look, it pushed up here, didn't put in that high. Like, obviously, it's been sold into a little bit here. Let's see what happens in the next couple of minutes. Technically, this is a bit of a sort of stronger Aussie data, which would sort of be a tick in the camp of this to have a little bit of a continuation up to those levels, 62.80. As I said, didn't actually take out that high. Tested the high, sells move back in straight away. But DXY is opening fairly flat. So if that continues to move down, this is a double pronged thing and a double reason why this should continue up to 62.80. If we see US dollar strengthen up a little bit, firm up a little bit, you may see this roll back down over. As I said, just sort of consolidate this period. But again, it's Aussie will just do what the US dollar inverse to what the US dollar is doing, but it can be a two-pronged thing. So you might get an extra bit of a push if we do get it, if we do see US dollar selling off, and it might look like a bit of a better option. For instance, maybe against the Aussie New Zealand, where we go. That also being sold into. So yeah, interesting actually, sort of Aussie being sold back against the board there. Look. Yeah, so that's just some Aussie selling right across the board there. All right. Anyway, moving on. We got copper. Copper is still powering on. So I think we might almost be look back up into that zone. Remember, this is a mad chop zone we had. This is just prior to the election. And you can see what I was doing here, like it sort of sold back down, it just kept hammering, hammering, hammering. So the idea, the sellers are moving up, the sellers are moving up. They think they know it's going up over here, wherever. They're happy to buy it here, happy to buy it here, happy to buy it here. And that pressure just popped, went through the top over here. So I think still a little bit of upside in copper here. Another reason why you might sort of see Aussie firm up a little bit more. 447, I think, is probably the next logical area. This was the top end of these spikes through this period. This is when we nicknamed it the heartbreaker because it was just endless time and time and time and time and time again. And obviously that was a telling thing that, you know, anytime it moved up, got sold into, bang, because this is the move that was coming. But yeah, it's certainly in breakout territory here. If this can continue, 447 is the next sort of stop for it all, the next little target. And finally, just sort of shoot through these ones a bit quicker. We got China. China did sort of take out this little rising support that we said last night, but the horizontal came into effect with it there, as you can see. So let's put a little ledge along here, and this is where our buyers are sitting. You go through this one again. Obviously, as you can see, we didn't get completely. Well, let me do it this way. Didn't get completely underneath that wick. Alert didn't go off. We didn't get to move down here. This does look like it wants to move over here a little bit now. So should it come back to this level again, that'll be the one that'll pop it, and that's the move that you're looking back down to. This horizontal and this more medium term rising support, which it actually hasn't come back to and tested for quite some time. It's gone off and set up its own little thing over here. But I think that's a more logical level to sort of be playing off. A break of this and this, that'll be more significant, because that'll pretty much affirm that this is the solid resistance that is needs to be beaten if they're going to see a weakening one. But all the headlines say that sounds like a gossip mag. All the headlines, but all the articles that you do see coming out are sort of saying that Xi is happy to play ball this time. They're going to be doing what they need to do to stabilize the currency, which is counter to what they have done previously. And I've gone through my thoughts on what's going to happen with this a number of times. I mean, you don't know till it happens, of course, but I'd be surprised if he goes as hard as he said he was. Trump, that being Trump, comes through this period. So we'll have to sort of wait and see how that plays out. All right, ticking through. That's pretty much it for Asia session in terms of data. We got GDP out of UK, slight tick up over there. They need to do something. They've been absolutely bashed over there. And then moving up tonight, we got retail sales from the US. Retail sales slight tick down. Getting very odd. So, well, not odd, but excuse me. From the headline and the core numbers and that sort of moving down, moving up. Also, I don't actually know what the core of the retail would be, what he's stripping out. But yes, we look at that. Unemployment claims looking to tick up a little bit. Again, weak data, that's what you're looking for a continuation of US dollar, maybe moving to the downside. All right, that's it from me.